Hello and welcome to the Quiet Life Podcast again. I'm Pat Yates. Today we have a great episode for you. I actually am talking to a female entrepreneur that does nothing but work trying to empower female entrepreneurs. Really incredible. I've been married a long time. My wife is sort of a budding entrepreneur after retirement. She's always been around me as I've run a business, and she's done some things working with the company before, but she was a teacher or an educator by trade and has since retired and has the entrepreneurial bug a little bit. So there's a lot of people out there post-COVID that are thinking about their next career. What do they want to do with their lives? Well, Leslie really helps a lot of women sort of develop that entrepreneurial bug. And if they don't understand how to get started, she not only has a book, 7 Keys to 7 Figures, she also has online courses that can train you how to do some of these things. So it's amazing to me because I feel that I try to be very philanthropic with all the things I know in business and give back a lot, consulting for free and helping people with their companies. That's a lot of what we do at Quiet Life. Much of what we're trying to do is add value in any situation, not necessarily sell a business. That becomes a product of that conversation. But Leslie's really kind of the same way. She wrote a book and she's done online courses and a site to be able to try to only help other entrepreneurs grow as individuals. Really kind of an amazing investment of her time. Not only has she done that, she has an Amazon brand named Back to Bali. I keep having a problem saying that. I don't know why. Back to Bali, B-A-L-I, with some really amazing clothing on it. She has such a dynamic background. I'm just really anxious to talk to her and hear what she has to say. But if you're a woman entrepreneur thinking about where your career now is going to go or your entrepreneurial journey, you may reach out to Leslie. I think she's going to be a fantastic guest. I can't wait to be able to talk to her about this. And again, if you ever need anything or advice from me or anyone at Quiet Light, you can go to quietlight.com and look at our listings, or you can email me at pat@quietlight.com. Anxious to talk to Leslie, so let's get right to it. Leslie, welcome to the Quiet Light Podcast. It's great to have you today.
So happy to be here. Let's talk.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited about this conversation. I know that you're an e-com entrepreneur, Amazon entrepreneur, which is very similar to me, other than my business broker side. And you focus really a book that we're going to talk about a little bit later about women entrepreneurs, which is really amazing because I've known a lot of women in my life. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, my wife is sort of a budding entrepreneur, I guess you would say. And in my business that I own, I've basically only hired women in the last 10 or 15 years, which is interesting. So we'd love, though, to hear about you. So your name, Leslie Kuster, and tell everybody where you're from and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. So, I've been an entrepreneur for a really long time, and that's kind of like the story I want to tell people. But I really was not a, quote, successful entrepreneur for literally 20 years into it. And when at the 20-year mark, I was in my early 50s at the time, and I just made a very conscious decision that enough is enough. I want to make my business successful. I want to earn more money. And I did and made it happen. And I brought my business from 5 figures to multiple 7 figures at that time. So that's kind of like my story. And I'm really here to encourage, and particularly women, to rise and to become successful and to become financially independent and successful, because basically I wasn't for so long. So I know what that feels like.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that it's interesting that you talk about that. So a lot of times if someone hasn't had a career maybe early, they end up trying to change their thing. So tell us a little bit I'd love to hear more about your business background. I understand the book is a reflection, but to get there, you kind of have to do something to be able to write a book, which, as I said, when you told me you wrote a book, I'm barely smart enough to read a book, much less write it. So I'm curious about your business background, where it started. I'm sure this isn't the first thing you've done in this Amazon store. So tell us all about that.
Yeah, sure. So my business background is that I had no business background, and that is really who I am. And what I've really learned was how to run a business by being in business. So the way I really started this business many years ago, we're going back like 30 years ago, is I simply did not want to get a job any longer and work for anybody else. I was working in New York City at that time in public relations. And I went traveling. I went traveling to Indonesia, and I fell in love with the freedom that I experienced not working in a job and being able to travel for 7 months. And so when I returned from traveling, and I was looking through the New York Times, which is how you looked for jobs back then, I was literally on my bed, like looking through, all the help wanted. There was just nothing in that paper I wanted. And I remembered in that moment this beautiful fabrics that I saw in Indonesia when I was traveling. And I just had this idea, I wonder if I jumped on the plane and I went back to Bali, Indonesia, I wonder if I can sell it. And that is how I started my business. So I literally had no business degree at all. But, I do come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad's an entrepreneur. My mom's an entrepreneur. So my tolerance risk was actually already very high.
It's really cool. I'm actually sort of scrolling your Amazon store as we speak, and the designs are really amazing. They're so different and they're so specific to, sort of a clientele, but it's just so vibrant in color. So what inspired you so much for that? Because you wouldn't think that that'd be the first thing to come to your mind on fashion.
Yeah, totally. Like I said, when I was traveling in Indonesia, I was so taken by the handicrafts that they had there, and in particularly batik. Batik is a handicraft from Indonesia. It uses wax and dye process, and they've been using it for thousands of years. So I started to see designs there using batik, but kind of in more Western modern, designs that, like trucks, for example, or flowers.
Right.
Things like that. And so I just fell in love with it. And in addition, I fell in love with the people too of Bali. They're incredibly generous, nice people. I've been working with them for 30 years, literally, doing business. So you get to know someone pretty well, when you're dealing with things like money and stuff. And they're just absolutely wonderful people. What I've enjoyed, especially about my business, is that I don't work with factories. And I only work with really grassroots small businesses. And in fact, most of my vendors, and I have several vendors I work with, are women and certainly family-owned businesses. And so I feel really very good about that. It's something very important to me to run an ethical business and to support the vendors that I work with.
Makes total sense. And if people are watching the video, I'm trying to scroll through your Amazon site a little bit. It's really incredible because like I am a habitual online shopper for my wife. I buy like 90% of her clothes, if you can believe that. And most people don't believe that, but I actually do. And it's funny because some of these designs look very similar to some that I see in a catalog that I buy from all the time. It's such great colors, really amazing stuff here. And obviously you're doing great with this. How long have you had this apparel business?
This particular line of the women's clothes that you're showing is around about 10 years old.
Wow.
But the business and the name of my business back from Bali is 30 years old, because what I had done before was children's clothes. And that's how I started the business, is went back to Bali and really just bought off the rack at that time. And then, as the business started to grow and move, you start to understand who your customer is and what colors sell and what, designs sell and all of that. And as I said, around about 10 years ago, I really wanted to become more successful. I wanted to make more money. I wanted to really bring the business to where I thought I could bring it to. And at that point, I pivoted from children's clothes into women's clothes because I could relate so much more to women's clothes than I personally could to kids' clothes, for example.
That's really amazing. So do you do most of your designing yourself? Is it inspired by you, or do you have some designers that also work on it? Because it's really amazing. I mean, it takes a lot of creativity to make that. How do you go about finding your products?
Yeah, I partner with a lot of creative people in Bali. So they're just naturally creative. Apparently in Indonesian and Balinese, there's no word for artist. There's actually no word because like everybody is an artist. It's very natural to Bali. And if anybody ever travels to Bali, you'll notice the way they turn the bed down and the way they do flower arrangements and all of that. So it's a very creative place. So I partner there with several different vendors and women-owned businesses to create the designs. And I have absolutely no design background. And this is something that I talk about in the book. I have no business background. We've already gone over that. And I have absolutely no design background at all. But I do have a good eye. And I knew that these products would really appeal, and they're comfortable, they're colorful, they're ethically made. And so then you also, as you're building the business, you get a lot of feedback from your customers. And that's really how I built the business. It did well in black, so maybe it's going to do good in blue. It did great in size, extra large. Well, maybe we should move to plus. And this is kind of how you build the business. So regarding designing, it really is a collaboration between me and my different vendors that I have in Bali. And yeah, I come up sometimes with designs or pictures or whatever that I send to them too.
That's really incredible. So I assume, obviously, Bali is an amazing place to visit. Next time you go to your factories, I'll go with you. I hear it's pretty nice over there. I'll just hang out with you and see what the landscape looks like. I hear it's amazing. So I do want to transition. I don't want to get too fast in it because I love your background into what we see sort of behind you there, the 7 Keys to 7 Figures, a book that you released last month, an unbelievable accomplishment to write a book, publish it, and sell it. And as I'm looking here, you got 39 5-star ratings, so it must be pretty good. So what made you decide to write a book, just out of interest?
When I brought the business from 5 figures to multiple 7, I started to ask myself, like, how in the heck did I do this? Because as I mentioned, no business background, no design background, nothing. And I realized that there were really certain things I did, attitudes, behaviors, decisions, actions that I did that brought the business from where it was to where it is now. And I've always been interested in teaching, inspiring. I actually have a master's in clinical social work. So I have that side of me. I used to run programs for young girls, empowerment programs. So the whole idea of empowering women, empowering young women and older women has always been something that's inside of me. And so I wanted to share how it's done and how I did it. And that's what the book is. The book is 7 Keys to 7 Figures, and it is really a guidebook for more freedom and for more money for any woman entrepreneur who wants to really build a business.
Right. So I'm checking out the site. You've got LeslieKuster.com, Kustr, in case anyone is wondering. And it shows on there you have courses, book, all this information. So you really try to be a resource for knowledge for women entrepreneurs in general, start to finish. Basically, if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, here's a course of how to be that way. Explain, what you're trying to accomplish and what all they can get, when they come to your site for the book, 7 Keys to 7 Figures.
I want to help women rise. It's like a passion inside of me. I have way too many friends with daughters who really have not really fully accepted the fact that they have to stand on their own feet and make their own money. And so my site, my website, LeslieKuster.com, is filled with resources. I have a course there as well. But what I'm encouraging women really to do is to get the book, and to get the book through the website 7 Keys to 7 Figures book.com. And when you get the book through that website, 7 Keys to 7 Figures book.com, which is a tab on the website, I am giving away bonuses as well. And one of the bonuses is one of the modules to my course, and it's probably the best module of all, which is action. So what am I trying to do with all of this? I'm literally just trying to help and inspire other women. I don't really do one-on-one coaching. I do speaking, and obviously I want to sell more books. But I just want to really help other women rise, because I know the pain of not doing it. And that's really what I want to share with other women, because this is how you do it.
So you make mention on the site of being able to break free from financial constraints and unlock wealth and prosperity. Is that really the goal, or is it to enrich? Is it a little bit of both? I mean, I'm trying to understand a little bit about. Everybody understands financial goals, but if it's uplifting women entrepreneurs, is it a dual goal there?
I think we have to be really honest and just say having a business is about making money. And the trouble is most women say things like, I would do my business even if I didn't make any money, or I'm not a money person, or, whatever these kind of like, I will do it, but they just don't want to embrace the money. So I am really here to help women embrace loving money and having the goal of creating financial independence as a real live goal for themselves.
Sure.
It's very easy to say things, and we hear it all the time, that, I want to help and I want to inspire and I want to this and I want to that. But in order for a woman to do those things, help and inspire and pay for charity and pay for private school and leave a bad relationship or whatever it is, they have to stand on their own feet with money. And so, yes and no. Is the purpose just to make money? Yes and no. The ultimate purpose is for freedom, is for control of one's life. It's for independence. It's for standing on your own feet. And when you're in a position of creating your own money, especially as a woman, you have choices. And that's really what I want to encourage more and more women to have.
Yeah, I think that encouragement is so big. It's that, oh, I've been in your spot and you can go here and here's how you learn this. Now, no one can walk in and read a book and then all of a sudden just make seven figures in a business. So in your online courses and things like that, are they guided? Are they with groups? Do you do it on your own? What's the learning process there?
The learning process is they're guided, and I also do live group once a week once you sign up for the course as well. So it's both. But listen, you're right. You can't just read a book. You can't even take one course. You can't even just work only with one mentor or one consultant and, all of a sudden have a seven-figure business. There's a lot of steps involved, and the steps are what I talk about in the book so much. For example, what really, really, really wanting it, focusing on it, becoming a ferocious learner, and having the honest conversations with ourselves on our relationship with money and what our money story is, meaning, what you were taught as a child. Money doesn't grow on trees, greedy people are not good people, whatever those things are. So becoming successful in a business will never happen overnight. There's a joke, it took 20 years to become an overnight success. And that was definitely, that was me 100%. It's, what I always talk about, that being an entrepreneur is like having a PhD in personal development, and personal development does not happen overnight. It's a series of actions and steps that step by step expands and grows. And that's how you build a successful business, is that way too.
Yeah, there's no question. That's well said. I think that even in this situation, if there's someone that's a young lady coming out of college, she may be very valuable to read this book and know how to start correctly. Even people that have been in long-term marriages might still want to do that. I think that the independent thing is so important to understand, that if you've never done this before, you still can, because so many people post-COVID are thinking about changing their lives in some different career that may not marry them to an office or something like that. I mean, is this something that you're going out and trying to encourage people to make a change in their life? If maybe they aren't even thinking about being an entrepreneur, they might have a job. I mean, as you're speaking and talking to people, is that part of the goal, to educate them on, here's another path for you? I mean, I understand that that's tougher, but is that the way you're going about this?
My goal is in particular to be focusing on women who are, I would say, 40 years and older, all right, already have a business, and they just have never passed over the six-figure mark in revenue. And I don't know, Pat, if you know this, but 90% of women entrepreneurs in the United States do not do over six figures in annual revenue, and only 3% do over seven figures. So there is a huge problem with women in entrepreneurship not even reaching the six-figure mark. So my goal is really to reach women that ideally already have a business, and they've been working on their business, but they just haven't gotten over that six-figure mark where they can actually start making some money for themselves. And that's really who I'm speaking to. Obviously, it will also help someone who, is just out of college and she's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, and even someone who's been in business 30 years and really wants to and is stuck. Maybe their business is flat. So it will help anyone who's in the entrepreneur space. But ideally, I want to talk to that woman who has not yet crossed over the six-figure mark.
Right. Well, it's very hard. I mean, even being a broker at Quiet Light and working with a lot of Shark Tank companies, you'd be shocked how few companies make it to $1 million, period. It's just like the stats of the top 1% earners. People get blown away when they hear that. Some people that can get to $1 million are way up there in the percentage of businesses that can do that kind of revenue. It's really an accomplishment to actually do that. So if there are some top actionable tips, let's say a woman is listening to the podcast right now, she's sitting in her office, she's been an accountant for 15 or 20 years. What are the 4 or 5 things that someone needs to think about initially before they decide, hey, I'm going to become an entrepreneur and I'm going to change my professional life?
Okay, if they haven't even changed, if they're like in a corporate job or something, they're thinking of changing to become an entrepreneur. First of all, an entrepreneur needs a huge amount of self-discipline. It's like one of the most crucial, behavioral ways that you need to be. So you need to ask yourself, do I have self-discipline? So this is really, really important. And the only other way to get the self-discipline is if you're wanting it or your why is strong enough. You have to have a really, really strong why. So if anybody's listening to this and wondering, I wonder, should I quit my job? Should I start a business? Should I all this stuff? The most important question is, why do you want to do it? Because you need an incredibly strong why, because it is hard. I mean, everything's hard. Work is hard. It's hard working for other people, but working for yourself and being an entrepreneur is not easy, especially what we've been through in these last few years. So that why needs to be there. So that's the first thing. You have to really, really, really want it. You need to know you have the self-discipline to really make it happen for yourself. And one of the keys in the book, key number 3, is to become a ferocious learner, because no matter where we're at in our, in our business or our age or whatever, we have to always be learning because everything is changing all the time. So I like to talk about being humble. Even if you have a 7-figure business or an 8-figure business or $100,000 business, to be humble, to understand that you need to be learning all the time. And that's, for example, listening to podcasts, reading books, joining masterminds, hiring coaches and consultants. Those are all ways to keep learning.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. So I would assume that a lot of these times that they come in and work with you, then you'll find some other things that they can learn from to be able to do it. So, I'm curious because you talk about the Women's Entrepreneur Guide to Money and Freedom and things, and it's focused on really one demographic, which is fine. That's fantastic. What is it that you feel like there's an advantage? Some of it may be rhetorical asking this, that women have in business right now. Maybe they don't even understand what advantages there really are.
That's a great question with the advantages, because, often we look at the disadvantages that women have. There's never been more support for women. That is the advantage right now. I mean, the world of entrepreneurship and the world of helping women rise has never been out there stronger. So I would say the advantage is there's a lot of help out there. There's a lot of free resources. I mean, on my website and many people's websites, YouTube videos. So the resources and the amount of coaches and women-focused coaches out there, there's just a lot of opportunities.
That's really amazing. So again, we're talking with Leslie Kuster, book 7 Keys to 7 Figures. It's really amazing because you've known Joe Valley for a long time and you still talk to Quiet Light. How is that? I don't even know, because he's not a very nice guy. I don't know.
Yeah, Joe and I go way back. I like to evaluate my company and check in with Quiet Light. If I ever did an exit, I'm definitely doing it with Quiet Light. That is for sure. And I like to get it appraised and everything. But I've been saying for a very long time, I'm going to be selling my business in 2 to 3 years, and then in another year it's 2 to 3 years, and I keep going and going and going. So one of these days I'll do it. I guess one has to sell their their business at one time. Isn't that right, Pat?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you would think
Yeah.
so, but you're teaching entrepreneurs, so you may just keep going with it. Who knows? Maybe if you get busier in your other side, you can, but we'll always be here. I like to rib Joe a little bit. We were just in Mexico together playing golf. He's such a good guy.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so Leslie, I know that we're going to wrap it up here. Are there other things that you think the women entrepreneurs or listeners out there need to know about, 7 Keys to 7 Figures, your book, or your business, or in business in general?
Yeah, totally. So you go to 7keys-to-7figuresbook.com, because that's where you get all the free bonuses.
Right.
And also, if you go to my website, lesliekuster.com, I've put together a free, I'm calling it the $1 million resource list. And definitely grab this. It's completely free. And what I have in it is all my contacts, literally from 30 years of contact.
Wow.
Of, the best e-commerce coaches, investing, podcasts recommended, books recommended, Canva, all kinds of ways, where to hire VAs and all that. So definitely that's a resource to grab. The point of what I'm doing is really to help women rise. This is what I want to really communicate and make women understand that no matter what age you are, whether you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80s, I suppose, it's all possible. And you don't really need business background. You don't really need these kind of things. You need to just really want it. And then there's resources out there to help you do it. It's all really possible. And this is my message. And this is coming from someone who didn't do it for 20 years. I didn't do it for 20 years. I had an under 6-figure business. I had a 5-figure business for a very long time. So I really do know it's all possible.
That makes a lot of sense. So Leslie, if they need to get in touch with you, how do they do that? Via email? Or what's the easiest?
Yeah, thank you. Leslie at lesliekuster.com, or go to lesliekuster.com on my website and you can contact me there. Definitely check out me on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn as well. Please follow me there. And I'm actually going to start something new. I'm super excited about it. I'm starting a live stream show. It's actually starting tomorrow, matter of fact.
Wow.
And it's called She Rises. So I'm going to be live streaming to different platforms. And the point of the show is to really give women an opportunity to be visible and to really communicate with the world what their businesses are, how they feel about being visible, because it's a big issue for women, visibility. And this is what I'm starting tomorrow. So I'm excited about that.
That's really exciting. So those of you listening, unfortunately right now when she's talking, we're in the 3rd week of October. This will be airing actually in the 2nd week of December. So maybe a little behind, but she's done some. So let's check that part out too. Leslie, this has been an amazing conversation. You listeners out there, again, the brand is backfrombali.com if you want to find that Bali, like BLI. And that's there on Amazon. Really, really cool products. Then the book you have that you've written, you've got lesliekuster.com, you got 7keys-to-7figuresbook.com. You don't have much going on. Then you're launching a TV show. That's really just like you have nothing else to do, I guess.
That and pickleball.
Well, that's great. I mean, look, it's awesome that you're making a lot of moves. Leslie, it's been amazing having you in the podcast today. And you guys, everyone go and check it out. And if you're a woman entrepreneur out there and you don't know where to start, or you have nervousness thinking it isn't your background, just reach out. She's going to help you so you can get the book and learn how to do it. And we just appreciate you being the Quiet Light podcast today. Thanks a lot, Leslie.
My pleasure.
All right. Have a great day.